Hello and welcome to my next self-study session. Today we're going to be looking at Leetcode number 206, reverse linked list. And so with this problem, we're given a singly linked list and we need to reverse it. So a singly linked list has nodes and pointers. Each node has a value property and a next property, which points to the next node in the list. The first node in the list is the head node and the last node is the tail. Typically, this is what they're called. As opposed to a doubly linked list, it has all the properties of a singly linked list, but in addition to the next pointer, it also has a previous pointer. So each node points to the node before it. So how do we go about solving this? Well, since we're just given the head of a singly linked list, we can only move in one direction. But we are also given the next node. And so what we can do is we flip it. So the head node now becomes the tail, and whatever the head points to, or what we're currently looking at, whatever it points to, it then becomes the way backwards. So we start from the head and we build the list going backwards. So let's look at this in code. So we see we have our reverse list method and we're given the head of our singly linked list. On line 8 now, we have just to check if head is null or undefined. We simply want to return head. We don't want to go through the rest of the algorithm or the program. That'll be a waste of time. It's null, right? So we just return head in the event it's null or undefined. Just return what we have. On the next line, we want to set head to what we're currently looking at. So we have a current property. We also have previous and next properties. Afterwards, we have our loop, and this loop is going to run as long as current is not null. On the first line in our loop, we are setting current.next to the next property. We're going to overwrite current.next on the next line, on line 14. So we want to store current.next somewhere, right? On line 14 now, we want to set previous as the current.next. The first time this runs, previous is going to be undefined, because what is actually happening is that it's setting the next node of the tail. As you recall, we are working our way backwards. Current on the first run is the head. And so current, which is the head here, which is now going to be the tail, its next node is going to be null undefined. It's, because it's the tail, right? And then we're going to set the current, what we're currently looking at, as the new previous, and then we're going to use now our next node as the new current. And this is going to run for as long as current is not null. So when we reach the next of the head, which was the tail, it's going to be null. And therefore, when we arrive at the last line, the line 16, it's going to terminate the loop. Finally, we're just going to return previous. And previous in this case is actually going to be the new head, which was the old tail. So it sounds a little bit confusing, but once we work through it, we set some readable property names. It's quite easy to track what we're doing. So if we look at these examples, so current, I'm just going to set it to 1 on the first run. Its current is going to be 1 because we're starting with this list. And because current is not null, it's going to enter the loop. And then we're going to have next as 2 because current, which is 1, is pointing to 2, right? And then we're going to have previous. It's going to be current. Current is 1. And our new current is going to be what we had as next. That's on the first run. On the second run, next is now going to be 3. Current, then we're going to have current dot next. Actually, I missed it in the previous. Right here, current dot next undefined. We could technically set it to null, so we're not working with undefined. Set it to null. So current dot next is previous, and previous is 1. And now we have previous as the new current, and the new current is 2. And current is next. So we have, and then the next run is just going to continue in that fashion. So next is going to be 4. Next of 3 is 4. Current dot next is set to previous, and previous is 2. All right. And our new previous is now going to be what we're currently looking at, which is 3. The previous is 3. And our new current is going to be 4. And finally, next is going to be 5. Current dot next is going to be 3. Previous is going to be what we're currently looking at, which is 4. And current is now going to be 5. So now next now is going to be null. Because remember, it's on the next of 5. Next of 5, there's nothing after 5. So current dot next, previous, which is 4. Then we have previous is going to be the new, what we are currently looking at. And current is now going to be null. And this is where the loop terminates. And we're going to exit this loop. And it's going to return previous as the head. And what we last had as previous is 5. So that's the new head. And so if we look at our example here, we have our node object, value, and next properties. And we've set up or built a little list. And this is ideally not the way you want to build a list. This is very naive. Ideally, you want to use a loop. We want to use a loop to build a list. But since this is not the purpose of the session, we're just going with this approach for now. So we print out the head, the original list, and then we're going to print out the reverse version of the list. So let's see what that looks like. Node CE206. Okay. Expand this. Okay, so this does not like being expanded. So we keep it expanded, then we run. Okay, there we go. So this is the original list and the reverse list. We can actually set a breakpoint. Let's set a breakpoint. Yeah, we already have one. Let's just run that. And if we look at previous, we see that now it's the head, then 4, then 3. Let's expand this a bit. Then 2, then 1, and 1 is now the tail, so it has null as its next value. So that's it. And if we look at head, because of the way object references work, head is now actually the next of head is actually null, because the old head became the tail, right? So that's just you know, the way in which references work. So that's not the purpose of this session, so we're not gonna go in detail with that. But yeah, when I first worked with this, it was a little bit tricky. When I just started with linked lists, it was a little bit tricky, but I found once I named my properties with some meaningful names, and I took it slowly, and it became a lot easier to follow what I was doing. And with more and more practice, it certainly became a lot easier. So I hope this session was helpful to you. If it was, let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. If there's anything that I missed or anything that I could have improved, also let me know. I'm always up for improving and a better way to understand something. So as I said, like and subscribe, and thanks again for joining me with this session, and I'll see you next time. Take care.